The Orlando Magic have consistently drafted complementary players over the past couple of years. Players that could have a lot of value playing next to an established all-star level player. But that's the problem. Since Dwight Howard, the Magic have failed to draft or bring in that kind of player to lead the franchise. Alfred Payton and Aaron Gordon are nice players, but I can't see them being the best or second best or may not even the third best players on a playoff contender. Orlando drafted Jonathan Isaac with the 6th pick, who could break the mold of the Magic failing to draft an all-star level player. His blend of size, ball handling, and shooting makes him an intriguing prospect who has drawn comparisons to Kevin Durant. Like I said in my draft videos, I believe Isaac is the biggest boom or bust prospect in this past draft. But I don't expect him to have an unbelievable rookie year. He still is raw at this point and most likely will only show flashes of what he could become this season. I believe the Magic got the best bargain in free agency by signing ex-Spurs forward Jonathan Simmons to a $6 million per year contract. Simmons showed so much promise during his time with the Spurs and proved he could be a major contributor to a good team. It wouldn't surprise me if Simmons is the leading scorer on this team and is in the discussion for most improved player when it's all said and done. He should improve the Magic's defense on the wing. Coach Frank Vogel will have to figure out his wing rotation because he has a ton of wing players on the roster right now, including Evan Fournier, Terrence Ross, Jonathan Simmons, Mario Hezonja, Aaron Aflalo, and Jonathan Isaac. This team will no doubt have better depth than they did last season. The Magic have two major decisions to make moving forward. Alfred Payton and Aaron Gordon are up for an extension. Do the Magic believe they have both shown enough improvement to invest for the future? They have shown steady improvement over the last 3 years, but they both have significant holes in their games. They both are not a threat from three-point land. And in an era of pace and space, that's a huge problem. If you can't shoot the three ball, you better be elite in other areas of your game. Alfred Payton has been solid in other areas, but not elite. And the only thing Aaron Gordon is elite at is his athleticism. This team is probably one of the hardest to predict, but I believe they will have a small chance to compete for a playoff spot. After getting off to a slow start last season, the Washington Wizards turned it around and they finished with the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference and made it to the 2nd round of the playoffs. By their standards, they had a good year last season considering they didn't make the playoff the previous year. The Wizards know what they have in their backcourt. John Wall is arguably a top 3 point guard and a top 10 player in the league. Bradley Beal is emerging as one of the top 2 guards and should be an all-star for the first time next season. Beal's 33 points in Game 6 and 38 points in Game 7 against Boston was proof of what he's capable of. In order for this team to take the next step, Otto Porter and Kelly Oubre will have to continue to improve and take their game to another level. After matching the offer sheet for Porter this offseason, they will not have cap space in the near future to bring in a difference maker through free agency. The Wizards have cap locked themselves with a core that doesn't look good enough to compete for a championship. Porter disappeared in a couple of games against Boston in the playoffs, and the Wizards just needed a reliable third option in order to get to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 1979. And Porter needs to be that reliable third option. Kelly Oubre has a ton of talent, and he is the only other candidate on the squad who hasn't reached his potential yet, besides Wall, Beal, and Porter. Oubre has all the tools to become a 3-and-D player. He has a good three-point stroke and is a 6'7" athletic freak. Even though Porter will be looked at to take it to another level, the Wizards had one of the best starting lineups in the league. That group averaged 82 points per game, which was 3rd best in the league. But the Wizards need depth in the worst way. They traded their 2nd round pick this year for point guard Tim Frazier from the Pelicans. He is definitely an upgrade over Brandon Jennings, who are just too inconsistent to be relied on. Tomas Satoransky needs to prove he's worthy of getting consistent minutes and gain the trust of Coach Scott Brooks. There are high expectations for this team, and they have the talent and experience to make a run for the #1 seed in the East. The one thing that is established about the Atlanta Hawks this season is that they are in full rebuild mode. 3 of the 4 leading scorers from last year's team won't be returning, as Dwight Howard was shipped off to Charlotte and Paul Millsap and Tim Hardaway Jr. left in free agency. The Hawks were constantly stuck in mediocrity, so it was only right for this team to start over from scratch. And this is another good year to do it with the incoming draft class. There are a lot of players on the squad that haven't had extended playing time on the court yet in the NBA. Players like DeAndre Bembry, John Collins, and Taurean Prince or young players who will get all the time they need to prove themselves. Bembry, the former 21st pick in the 2016 draft, was a forgotten man and failed to crack the lineup for most of his rookie year. He is known for his high-level passing and basketball IQ. The two things that Bembry needs to prove is that he can consistently hit the outside jump shot and be a solid defender. John Collins should get enough touches to the point where he could be a dark horse candidate for Rookie of the Year. Dennis Schroeder will be taking on a new leadership role as he is now the team's go-to scorer and overall best player. He had a successful first season as the Hawks' full-time starter at point guard last season. But does he still have room for improvement, or have we seen the best from Schroeder already? The Hawks averaged only 103 points per game last season. That was 8th fewest in the league. And with 3 of the best players from last year's team gone, that average will get a whole lot worse. Atlanta could have the worst offense in the league next season. Even if Dennis Schroeder plays like an all-star, it still won't keep this squad from losing a lot of games next season. It is clear to see that the Atlanta Hawks will miss the playoffs for the first time in 10 years. Nothing much was expected for the Miami Heat going into last season. And for the first couple of months, these guys looked like a lottery team. It looked like Miami had a chance to have a top 5 pick in the draft. After a dreadful 11-30 start, Miami won 30 of their last 41 games to finish out the season. They had one of the best records in the league from January to the end of the season. They could have easily made the playoffs if Dion Waiters hadn't gotten hurt and missed the last 13 games. Who knows how many games they could have won. Their team identity is built on being mentally tough and defensively focused year in and year out. After making a run at Gordon Hayward, Miami ended up bringing 2 key free agents back as they re-signed guard Dion Waiters and forward James Johnson. After being bounced around from team to team in his 8-year career, Johnson finally got into his comfort zone with the Heat last season as he averaged around 13 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. His gritty and tough style of play is exactly what Coach Eric Spoelstra wants on his team. Dion Waiters had career best numbers with a near 40% three-point shooting and averaging 3 assists and 3 rebounds per game to go along with 16 points per game. Justice Winslow will be coming off a season-ending shoulder injury. Miami never really were able to grow and reach their full potential last season with Dragic, Waiters, Winslow, and Whiteside. The Heat were able to add 2 talented big men to the squad in former Celtics forward Kelly Olynyk and first-round pick Bam Adebayo. Whether they decide to start Olynyk or not, he is a natural fit alongside Whiteside, as he is a career 37% three-point shooter. The Heat ranked 12th in three-point shooting last season, and Olynyk can make them even better this season. Bam Adebayo's game is built on defense and athleticism, but he also has the potential to be a solid offensive player on the next level. In Summer League, he showed glimpses of what he could become on that end of the floor. Look for Bam to get legit playing time in his rookie year. This team was able to make an historical run in the second half of the season with a couple of D-League players getting consistent minutes. Imagine if you replace those guys with a healthy Justice Winslow, Kelly Olynyk, and Bam Adebayo. The Miami Heat could find themselves battling for home court advantage for the playoffs. After winning 48 games 2 seasons ago, the Charlotte Hornets finished last season with a 36-46 record and missed out on the playoffs for the 10th time in 13 seasons. After that disappointing season, the Hornets made a couple of changes that should improve the team and could have them back in the playoffs. The Hornets made an upgrade at the center position by trading for Dwight Howard from the Atlanta Hawks. Even though he isn't as athletic as he used to be, he will definitely bring defensive toughness and physicality to the Hornets, something they lacked last season. Head coach Steve Clifford is familiar with Howard as he was an assistant coach for him in Orlando. I believe Clifford will put Dwight in the best position to succeed. In the draft, the Hornets lucked up and drafted Malik Monk out of Kentucky with the 11th pick. Monk was one of the best shooters and scorers in college basketball last season. He has great touch on his shot and was deadly from mid-range, off the bounce, and catch at Kentucky. Coach Clifford could consider putting Monk in the starting lineup if Michael Kidd-Gilchrist's awful outside shooting is too much to overcome. Monk's defense will most likely determine if he gets the starting nod. Our coach could decide to put Jeremy Lamb at the 2-guard spot and have Monk and Kidd-Gilchrist come off the bench. It's a tough decision to make because as great as Kidd-Gilchrist is on defense, he is just as bad on the other end. He is basically a taller Tony Allen. After a career year 2 seasons ago, Kemba Walker took his game to another level last season. He was a more efficient scorer as he averaged more points and assists per game and became an All-Star for the first time. Walker duplicating those All-Star numbers again will be a win for the Hornets. Their starting five last year with Walker, Batum, Kid Gilchrist, Williams, and Cody Zeller had a winning record going 27-20. The problem was that group only appeared in 47 games, with Zeller missing most of the games with multiple injuries. With the additions they have made in the offseason, I expect this squad to return back to the postseason after missing them last season. In the Southeast Division, coming in 5th place, I have the Atlanta Hawks. This team basically waved the white flag for the upcoming season. Instead of maxing out Paul Millsap and keeping Dwight Howard, or being a 7th or 8th seed, they decided to take a step back and go for a full rebuild. I believe the Hawks will be the worst team in the NBA. I have the Hawks winning 15-17 games. In 4th place, I have the Orlando Magic. The Magic have a team full of solid NBA players, but no one who is good enough to lead the franchise. And it's been that way since Dwight Howard was traded. It will have to be a collective effort for this team to score enough points every night to have a chance to be a good team. I have the Magic winning 22-26 games. In 3rd place, I have the Charlotte Hornets. They made the necessary changes to go back to the playoffs after missing them last season. Kemba Walker had a spectacular year last season, and I have no doubts that he will continue to produce. Dwight Howard doesn't have to be Superman to make a positive contribution. And also, a healthy Cody Zeller and Malik Monk should be enough for the Hornets to get back to the postseason. I have the Hornets winning 40-44 games. In 2nd place, I have the Miami Heat. Last year, this team was winning as much as Golden State was in the second half of the season. And that was with Justice Winslow out and Dion Waiters missing the last 13 games. They have re-signed key players and added players from free agency and the draft, which should result in a dangerous team next season. I had the Heat winning 42-46 games. And in 1st place, I have the Washington Wizards. Everybody expects this team to be one of the best teams in the East. And it's been a long time since you could say that about a Wizards team going into the season. John Wall and Bradley Beal are one of the best backcourts in the league and will be looked at to lead the franchise to places they haven't been in a long time. I have the Wizards winning between 48 and 52 games.